Hello guys, Messenger of Death here, and we're in Riften currently.
If you
And
need me, I'm here.
notice there's a new dialogue option with Auri. Why are you staring at me like that?
Oh, I was just admiring the color of your eyes. They're really quite striking, you know? When the light hits them, they're like deep pools. And did you know the tip of your nose wiggles when you speak?
No. Thank you, that's kind of you to say.
You're quite welcome.
Okay. So she's flirting with me now, after all that
Yes?
quest and whatnot, okay. What's on your mind?
I was wondering, would you play me something?
Sure, why not? What would you like to hear?
Play me something dramatic and inspiring.
Okay, sure, I can do that. Dramatic and inspiring, eh? Let's see. What the? Where's the option to play instrument? Why isn't it favorited anymore? Weird. And we'll go with Pro number 6.
If your allegiance lies with Ysmir's blessing on
Yes, enjoy it right down your ear.
Can you be my father?
Whoa! Okay, I was not expected to hear that. You're the best, can you be my father? Damn. I'm sorry, but there's somebody else I'm going to be adopting.
Is it getting hot? Or is it just me?
Yes.
Yes, my friend?
Did you like that? Let's chat.
Certainly.
Do you think your king could forgive you?
I don't know. The penalty for breaking the Green Pact is death. It's not something that's just forgiven.
I see.
Certainly.
Tell me about your family.
My father was a hunter, and my mother dabbled in priesthood. Both of them spent most of their time alone, so it was mostly me and my sister. What about you? What was your family like?
I never knew my parents.
I'm sorry to hear that. Who took care of you growing up?
I raised myself on the streets.
That must have been really difficult. It explains why you're so strong, though. Thank you for sharing that with me.
You're welcome.
Certainly.
Will you tell me a story?
I'd love to. What would you like to hear about?
Tell me about Ifri.
There is a story that my mother used to tell me when I was a child. I remember it well. Once, there was nothing but formlessness. The land held no shape. The trees did not harden into timber and bark.
I see.
And the elves themselves shifted from form to form. This formlessness was called the ooze.
Go on.
But Ifri took the ooze and ordered it. First, she told of the green, the forest, and all the plant life in it. She gave the green the power to shape itself as it willed, for it was her first tale. The elves were Ifri's second tale. As Ifri spun the story, the elves took the form they have today. Ifri gave them the power to tell stories, but warned them against trying to shape themselves through the green. Shifting and the destruction of the forest were forbidden. Instead, Ifri commanded the wood elves to the green, so that they might ask the green to provide them with shelter and a safe passage. And as long as they respected the green, it would obey. This is called the Green Pact. Finally, Ifri told of all the beasts that crawl on the land, or swim in the rivers, or fly in the air. These Ifri gave to the wood elves as as food. They were to eat no plants but consume only meat. Ifrei also told that no wood elf who is struck down by another wood elf should be allowed to sink into the ground, but should instead be consumed like the beasts. This is called the meat mandate.
What did Ifrei do after telling the story?
When the stories were told, Ifrei saw that they had a pleasing shape, but some of the ooze remained. Ifrei told a final tale then,
Yeah?
and gave purpose to the ooze. Any wood elf that violated the Green Pact, either by shifting or by damaging the green, would be condemned. Condemned to return to the formlessness of the ooze. Their names would be scrubbed from the story Ifrei is telling, and replaced with silence.
I see.
Certainly.
Will you tell me a story?
I'd love to. What would you like to hear about?
Tell me about the
The
spinners.
spinners tell of spirits to whom this land belongs, and who belong to this land, if they belong to anything. They are our ancestors and our governors, our conscience when conscience fails, wisdom for foolish elves. We may pretend to live apart from them, but it is only a child's tale, made of childish dreams.
I see.
Certainly.
Will you tell me a story?
I'd love to. What would you like to hear about?
Tell me about the covetous of the
In
Bosma.
Morrowind, there was a nobleman by the name of Kelmero Bryn, who had a very definitive view of how things should be done. Whenever he purchased a new slave, he had them whipped in the courtyard for 1 to 3 hours. Few
Okay.
slaves ever had to be whipped more than once. As the memory of their first day and the sights and sounds of other slaves' first days stayed with them throughout their lives. When Bryn bought his first Bosma slave, he ordered his castellan to whip him only for 1 hour. The Bosma, which Bryn had named Dob, seemed so much more delicate than his other slaves. He was clearly not suited for work in the fields, but looked presentable enough for domestic work.
Fascinating. Go on.
Dob did his work quietly and tolerably well. Bryn occasionally had to correct him by refusing him food, but the punishment never needed to go further. Whenever guests arrived at the plantation, the sight of the exotic and elegant addition to Bryn's household staff always impressed them. It was during this time that Bryn decided to take advantage of Dob's skills in archery and ordered him to tutor his son, Wodelic. For the first few days, the master watched Wodelic and Dob to be certain that the slave knew how to teach. He was pleased to see the boy learn the grips and the different stances. A month later, when he came once more to check on his son's progress, he saw Dob guiding Wodelic to shoot his arrow up into the air, high above the targets. "What nonsense is this?" Bryn snarled. "What about accuracy? You haven't taught my son a single thing about marksmanship."
Oh no.
Dob bowed humbly. "Sedura, first Master Wodelic must become comfortable with the weapon before he need worry about accuracy. We learn this by watching the arrow arc in different winds." Bryn's face turned purple with fury. "I'm not a fool," he raged. "I should have known not to trust a slave with my boy's education." The master grabbed Dob and shoved him toward the plantation house. Dob, head down, began the humble, shuffling walk he had learned in his domestic duties. Wodelic, tears streaming down his face, tried to follow. "You stay and practice," roared his father. "Try aiming at the target itself, not at the sky. You are not coming back into the house until you do it." The boy tearfully returned to practice, while Bryn brought Dob into the courtyard and called for his whip. Dob suddenly broke away and scrambled to hide between some barrels in the center of the yard. Bryn began to bring down the whip down on his exposed back again and again.
Poor Dob.
Wodelic's miserable wail drifted from the courtyard. "I can't, father. I can't hit it." "Master Wodelic," Dob cried back as loud as he could, his voice shaking with pain. "Keep your left arm straight and aim slightly east. The wind has changed. Stop confusing my son, Bryn screamed. You'll be in the sultry fields if I don't beat you to death first, like you deserve. As Bryn's whip rained blows down upon Dob, Wodilic's arrow sailed high before coming down in a magnificent arc. Bryn tasted the blood before he realized he'd been hit. Gingerly, he raised his hands and felt the arrowhead protruding out of the back of his neck. He looked at Dob crouching under a wagon and thought he saw a thin smile cross the slave's lips. Just for an instant before he died, Bryn saw the face of an untamed wood elf on Dob. Bullseye, Master Wodilic, Dob crowed.
Huh?
Certainly.
Okay.
I'd love to. What would you like to hear about?
Actually, you know what?
Gotcha.
I want to find someone called
Fancy
Maressian
yourself
under
the
these
adventuring type, eh?
ice reef
It's just
teeth.
as well. I
I
doubt your combat prowess would
think
be
I have to wait till
valuable in a real
daytime for
battle
that.
anyway.
Hello?
So you know what? We'll continue on with the
Certainly.
stories for now. Hang on. You tell me a story.
I'd love to.
Tell me about the old bones.
Many years before your time, and many well before mine, great creatures walked the surface of Nan. Where they came from, none could say. After a time they faded and vanished, all gone away to the lost corners of the world. All save one. A great beast made entirely of bones did burrow a writhing path through the ground, named the Destroyer by those who survived his passage. Though none could say where it went or what drove it, all knew the barren swaths of land in its wake. It is said the Destroyer's coming could be felt as a qualling of the sod a full day before its arrival. When it arrived in a place, the great beast would writhe about, shattering walls and toppling buildings.
Go on.
Cliffs would turn to slurry in the great quakes brought by its pursuit, and many a pod home burst beneath its bones. It did so until it found men or mer who could answer its question, for the Destroyer would always question its victims. The oldest accounts of these questions were all variations on, where can I find the old bones? The canniest of those asked would point in a direction deemed most expediently away from and least destructive to the remaining homes. As the Destroyer searched, evidently in vain, its questions changed. As it neared the end of its rampage, it was known to ask, "May I sleep here? It has been so long since I slept." The only one known to answer yes to this question was the tree thane of Falinesti, the walking city. Knowing Falinesti would soon move on, from where it wintered in South Point, she convinced the Destroyer to sleep in the boughs of Arborfell, an orchard known for its abundance of bats.
What happened?
Here, the Ephraim priesthood planted a blessed seed in the skull of the great beast as it slept. This seed soon grew into a sapling, the sapling into a great tree, and the great tree into the barrow bow. The bones have not stirred since. In the ages following the Destroyer's final rest, ancient bones have sometimes been unearthed throughout Valenwood. Though silent, these remains are brought to Arborfell, now the Bone Orchard, in hopes that they will always remain so. This tradition has spread throughout Valenwood. Bosma far and wide have taken to burying the bones of their loved ones in the shade of the barrow bow. Here they believe Ephraim will grant his blessing, a final sleep for the lost.
I see.
Certainly.
You tell me a
I'd
story.
love to. What
Tell me
would you
about
like
the
to hear
Sylvanar and the Green
The
Lady.
hunter waits in the boughs, clad only in leaves and shadow. She breathes as the wind shifts and listens. Her quarry's fear grows thicker than the canopy. A glance, a turn, and it breaks cover. Her eyes open. Footsteps, muffled, beat softly through the green. Any other would lose the quarry to the vine-swept earth, yet the hunter does not waver. Over and through the forest goes the silent chase. Briefly, the hunter alights upon a branch. A quick pull from her water skin, and she's off again. A stream bubbles through the wood, and the quarry stops to drink. Claw leaves scabbard, slick and shining. Teeth bare with anticipation. She leaps.
Okay.
A sirocco of splashes. Claw meets neck. The quarry relents. A moment more would see crimson intrude upon the stream's mirth. She licks her lips. Not this one. At the stream's edge stands a simple mer. In his silhouette stands every woodsman, hunter, and guide. Every jackspur, every tree thane and spinner. Every child and every elder stand with him. Yet he stands alone. Her hunter's gaze meets his. She sees herself beside him too. She blushes, and so does he. My Sylvana, she says at last. My green lady, he responds in tone. She lowers her claw and turns to the quarry.
What happened then?
In stalking these woods, in keeping them free of terrors, I lose myself to the green. She helps the quarry to its feet. But I will always bring her back, says the Sylvanar. You have nothing to fear from us, child of the forest, so long as there is the green. We walk where you walk. The Sylvanar vanishes among vines. The green lady leaps for the bows. She watches the Bosma trudge out of the stream and continue through the forest. But she smiles, for the Bosma is no longer afraid.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Ifre's blessings.
Right, Inigo. You wanted to sing for me, I remember you
Hey,
saying.
Taylor, get off your lazy tail and take care of the customer.
Keep your scales on.
That innkeeper lady's a bit of a bitch, isn't she?
Indeed.
If you've got the coin, you're welcome
I'm
here.
done for now.
Thank you. Here, this is for you.
Yeah.